worried about it. Okay. So after around 35 minutes, I had the courage to go and ask him, customer, can we now talk about business? Okay. And he got extremely upset. Okay. He got very, very upset. Okay. So he said, Girish, you have two choices. Okay. Choice number one, you can be exactly like the way you are right now. And I'm going to call your boss, Chandra, tomorrow. I know him very well. And I'm going to ask him to take me back. Okay. Okay. This was my first customer meeting, okay, sales meeting. And then, all the other thing he said was that, I'll give you a piece of wisdom. Okay. He said, you slow down. Okay. Don't be like request. Okay. Don't think that people will talk about business on day one. Okay. Take your time. Okay. Learn about how to drink coffee. Okay. Learn about how to talk about weather. Okay. How to talk about football. Okay. If you do all of that, then perhaps you will start getting business. Okay. And it's a very, very important part of learning that I had. Okay. Because when we go with the preconceived notion of how we will do this particular business in a particular country, and then you suddenly see that everything completely changes, right? So here I was trying to make a sales effort for myself, completely failing on day one. Okay. Then I thought I should learn. Okay. So effectively after that I started learning on how to learn the local customs, local culture. Okay. I had some interesting things which I want to share with you. So one of the things that I had in the Netherlands when I got in was that our biggest customer in that country was an American customer. Okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong. Okay, nothing wrong in having an American customer, but you can't have an American customer as your largest customer in a European country. Right? Something wrong, right? So what I told myself is that I would like to keep this customer, but I want at least a lot of European customers who will be bigger than this American customer. Okay. So I started working towards that. Okay. And very interestingly, so what I noticed was that I noticed which are the big European brands in that particular country. Okay. So there was obviously an ABN AMRO, an ING, a Unilever, a Shell. We just talked about Philips. We just talked about a few. All of them are. It's a very small country. I don't think it is even the size of 1/3 of Maharashtra. Okay. But if you look at it, what those countries produces is just fascinating. So essentially what I did was that finding it very difficult to get into this, because at that time I was reading some of the chairman of it was extremely difficult at that particular time to get into any of these customers. Okay. First of all, nobody would know about TCS. Okay. Nobody would know about Indian IT. And it was very difficult going and selling to all of them, okay, and telling them about a different value proposition. Okay. But nowadays things have changed, because nowadays we can go and tell them we are from the TCS and we are from the Tata Group. People will give us meetings, okay, but it never used to be like that at that particular time. So I thought of something very different that I need to do. Okay. So I found this fascinating thing that I wanted to get into one customer. Okay, I'll name the customer. I want to get into Philips at that particular time. A very, very important customer for TCS. Okay. So I thought we have to get into Philips. Okay. And very difficult to crack into Philips because they would have their established suppliers. It's very difficult to get into them as one of the key partners. Okay. Then I found they were doing some very interesting work with management college in the Netherlands called the Rotterdam School of Management. I don't know how many of you heard. It's one of the best schools of management. Okay. And there was a professor who was talking about supply chain. Okay. And very interestingly, TCS had done some very interesting work in supply chain. At the time when we had the Latur earthquake here in Maharashtra. Okay. So I was sharing with him what we did on supply chain. Okay. And he was so fascinated by it. He said, Girish, I think we should get a few corporates together and let us find a way to inform them about what we can do on dynamic supply chains. Okay. So we decided that we will call a few customers and take all of them out of the country, okay, and go to somewhere else. Okay. So essentially there were 8 of them that we picked, and 8 of us flew actually for a weekend in Miami. Okay. What a nice place to talk about supply chain. Right? So we went to actually a resort in Miami to talk about supply chains, dynamic supply chains. Okay. And to my luck, the CIO of Philips was also there, okay, in the 8 of people who were there. Okay. And I was talking, and I had my share of presentation that I had to give. And he was so fascinated by what we were doing, what TCS was doing in the whole area of dynamic supply chain, that he said, I don't know, Girish, why you are not in you're not our partner. Right? I also told him, I also don't know why. So essentially, as soon as we came back, you know, the first thing that he did was he said, come and meet me in my office. And we actually, within a month, we became a partner with Philips. So the reason I'm saying this is essentially because don't go to the traditional route. If you go to the traditional route of going and trying to sell to somebody, it might fail. But you can look through different ways by which you can try to get into an organization. Okay. Now again, if I look at the days that I spent in the Netherlands, we did fairly well, and TCS did fairly well. And I had at that time told my wife, we will only go for 3 years. We will not go in this cold country. I don't want to live for more than 3 years. Okay. I will only go for 3 years. And she also said, yes, we want to come back to Bombay. As fate would have it, we were there for 10 years. Okay. So after 3 years, my portfolio grew in TCS, okay, and they made me the head of Europe for TCS. Okay. And I have some interesting things that I have to share on that. Okay. If I look at our European revenues at that particular time, we were 2% of TCS. Okay. Now, 2% is insignificant, right? Nobody will even give you a look for 2%, okay? The whole company. Okay? And then I told myself that no, I mean, just have to stay bold. And I had my first management meeting with all the country managers. And I just told them, we will, today all of us will collectively decide that from 2% we will take it to 10%. Okay? Let's decide. The only thing which we need to do is which year we will take it. Okay? Whether we do it in 3 years or 5 years, let us decide. But no, let's all get to the mindset that we need to move from 2% to 10% of TCS. Which means that we had to grow, if TCS was growing at 20%, we had to grow at 60% over the next 3 years. Okay? Or 65% over the next 3-4 years. Okay? So the first thing that got into the team was that the whole area of mindset. Okay? How to get people to change that. I'm happy with a particular rate of growth. Okay? And to change that certainly paradigm shift and say that no, 15% is not, 20% is not good enough. 60% is the new norm. Okay? But luckily, I think the team completely stood by it. Okay? And we put together a few interesting thoughts. Okay? The first thought that we said was that if you get down at an airport, okay, in any part of Europe, okay, so for example, if you get down in Copenhagen, go around, you look at Copenhagen, just look around the airport. Okay? Normally, what do you see? You see a lot of hoardings, right, of local companies. Okay? It will be the same thing in Aurangabad. If you come to Aurangabad, you will see outside of the airport normal hoardings of local companies. Okay? So I told my team that what we need is essentially when you get out of the airport, look at all the brands. Okay? Those are the brands that we need to acquire. Okay? If you more and more we acquire these brands, let's not worry about what is the quantum of business we get from them. However small or big it is, let us ensure that we get it. We get them as our customers. Okay? Because then it can only grow. Okay? And luckily people bought into the whole concept. Okay? So we made a first list of 26 customers that we need to acquire, okay, in year one. Okay? And you would be very fascinated to know 26, we actually got 18 of them in year one. Okay? Because what I told my team is that don't look at anything. Every day when you get up in the morning, when you brush your teeth, you should only think of this company, nothing else. Okay? If you keep thinking about the same thing over and over again, what do? Your mindset changes, right? Your mindset gets oriented to how do I keep acquiring them. Okay? I think for all of you who've gone through life here, okay, it is the same thing with a boy and a girl, right? The boy decides I want a girl, and he keeps thinking that, right? And you get it, right? So essentially that's the same thing, okay? The same concept, okay? So we did the same thing, okay? And out of the 26 companies, we got 18 companies on year one, okay? Year 2, we were able to get around 30 of them. Very interesting. Okay? So we put together a very, very interesting customer acquisition strategy. So let me give you some examples. Okay? We had, for example, I still remember Chandra coming and telling me, don't go and work in Nokia or Finland. Okay? No, please don't go there. Okay? Go to work in Finland only for one reason. You have to work with Nokia. That's it. Okay? You don't have to get any other customer. Go and get Nokia. And then I remember he even telling us that, please go and park yourself outside of Nokia every day. Okay? And then you will find a way to get inside. So that was a conviction that all of us had. That if we do something very different, then we will be able to get into it. Okay? And we were able to get into Nokia. So similarly, in each and every country, we identified as local logos, okay, by which from where we could really work. Okay? The other one which we did was that we established a very, very good relationship with all the government bodies and education institutions. Again, I genuinely feel that education institutions is a very, very good way by which one can work together and really make a huge difference to the society at large. And if you look at my own team, all of them were in the 30s. It so happened that all of them were very young. I just pulled them up from who were doing jobs who were, but I found a lot of passion in them. So I just got them and put them as a country heads. Okay? And believe me, all of them have come. Okay? So it really shows that the youth in this country have a lot of passion. Okay? And it is just that if we stretch ourselves up, we genuinely have the desire to do something really big in life. Okay? So when I moved back from Europe, okay, I have a few lessons which I learned. Okay? And this is something which I think can be applied to all of us. Okay? Somebody told me that the way to grow in life is that every year, January 1st, when it comes January 1st, you make a resolution that you will not do the same thing that you did last year. Okay? So what it means is that, it means that if I was doing some work last year, January 1st it comes and then I say, I'm not going to do the same work. Okay? What it means is that you have to find somebody else who will do that work for you, right? Effectively what you are doing is that you are growing people to take up your job. Okay? And you are becoming dispensable in life. Okay? It's a good thing. Okay? When you become dispensable, what happens is that automatically more responsibilities are thrust on you. Okay? It's a very important lesson that I learned. Okay? Every year try and do new things. Okay? And when you try and do new things, so for example, out of the 19 years I've been in TCS, I would have had around 16 jobs. Okay? So far. Okay? Very fascinating. But every year I try and do something different. Okay? The second thing which I found very interesting was, again, this is what I told, I always quote my mother for this, is focus on relationships without expecting anything in return. Very, very important thing. Okay? I still have great friends in Europe. I know a lot of them very, very well. And a lot of them are retired, but I still keep in touch with them and they keep in touch with me. Do not expect anything in return. Okay? I'll give a simple example of how this panned out. We had one of our customers who was very, very close to us, okay? And he was made redundant in a particular job, okay? So he didn't have a job. But we still kept in touch with them, very, very nice, very, very close. And after 2 years, he became the CIO of one of the largest organizations in Europe. Okay? And guess what? As soon as he went there, the first thing he said was, Girish, come here, please take over the IT. So, that's a very important lesson I learned in life. That, please keep touch with people, build a relationship, and don't expect anything back in return. Okay? If you do that, more and more success will follow. Okay? I had a very other interesting thing about culture. Again, I talked about coffee, football, all of that. Okay? Just next to the Netherlands, there's a small country called Belgium. Okay? You must be knowing about it, right? Half of Belgium speaks Dutch, okay? The same language as the Netherlands. Okay? And we were actually negotiating, TCS was negotiating a contract with a Dutch company and a Dutch bank and a Belgian bank. Okay? The Dutch and the Belgian bank were trying to bring a joint venture together. and we were sitting on the other side. Okay. And these days, the Dutch bank and the Belgian bank said that what we will do, we will not negotiate this contract in Europe, we will negotiate it in Bombay. So here we had three organizations, with the Dutch bank, the Belgian bank, and TCS coming in together for a negotiation session in Bombay. It was very fascinating, taught me a lot of things. Okay. And people were speaking the same language, okay, which is Dutch. Okay. The Belgian bank and the Dutch bank. Day one of the negotiation, the first 1 hour after we got introduced to ourselves, to each other, the Dutch and Belgian bank was speaking something, and the Dutch bank did not know what the Belgian bank was speaking. The Belgian bank did not know what the Dutch bank was speaking, okay. And they were trying to negotiate with us. Okay. So somewhere down the line, somebody somebody said, time out. Okay. Let's take a time out. Today we will not go any further negotiation. Okay. And mind you, these guys were speaking the same language. Okay. And we always think people who speak the same language get along very well, right? And these guys said, we will not do it, and then they said time out. Okay. And they actually went back. They spent the next afternoon having a beer with each other, and at least they sorted out all their issues. Okay. And the next morning when they came to each other, at least they could speak the same language. Okay. So it's very, very important that cultural fitment is extremely critical in any society that one goes to. I told you about mindset. Another very interesting thing that we did in Europe. Okay. I don't know whether how many of you know, but TCS provides the IT for the Ferrari 1 Formula team. Okay. Again, it's a contract that I signed. I'm very proud of it. We do all the IT for the Formula 1 team. Okay. So whenever you see a Ferrari car coming out of the pits, or whenever it goes into the thing, we do all the IT for it. And essentially what it means is that there are two things which goes with the technology, very fascinating, is that typically races happen every 2 weeks, okay, the Formula 1 calendar. Okay. And then whenever you are doing any work in the car, whether it's aerodynamics, anything in the car, effectively you get 2 weeks to build a new solution, test it, and then put it into the car again. Okay. So that is the time that window that you get. 2 weeks is the time window that you get to try and build something. Okay. And we started negotiating the contract. Okay. But the fact remains that it was not a huge contract. But the fact that Ferrari as a brand was so powerful was good enough for us to get into their business. Okay. So that's why I said that don't worry about how large the company is. Okay. Ferrari produces 5,000 cars a year, that's it. Okay. And they don't have an intention to produce more than that. In fact, this time if you read the newspapers, Ferrari, as the chairman has said that in order to keep the second-hand car market alive, and if you buy a Ferrari, it keeps going up, value keeps going up, right? He wants to keep reducing the number of Ferraris that are produced every year. Okay. So that is the kind of decision that they go through. Okay. So we did this particular work with Ferrari, and it's very fascinating. Whenever I go and tell any customer around the world that we are working with Ferrari and we are doing this particular technology in Formula 1, they all find it so fascinating. They say, if you guys can do it for Ferrari, you can do it for us. Okay. That is the kind of thing. Okay. So it's a very, very interesting thing. Okay. So don't look at the size of the customer. Look at what the quality of work that they do. That is more critical. Okay. And I still remember, even today in the organization, we have a fantastic culture in the organization that if a customer calls us for a particular meeting, we just drop everything and go and meet them. Okay. It's a fascinating thing. Okay. You won't believe the number of times I've traveled from India to Europe only for a day. I go in the morning, meet one customer and come back in the evening. Okay. And if you look at the number of days I do that, it's just fascinating. Okay. And to top it all, I remember my CEO Chandra and I actually did 7 countries in one day. 7 countries. We traveled from India to one country in Netherlands. We signed that contract. Then we went to another, and again all countries are 200 kilometers away, so that's one thing. So you can do it. Okay. And I was just telling everybody that only if we had a good infrastructure here in this country, we could also do the same thing. Okay. But the fascinating thing is we did 7 countries. Okay. And it just shows a little bit of passion that we have as far as customers are concerned. Okay. Now, after I finished my job in Europe, actually, in 4 years, we were able to move from 2% to 10%. Okay. Today, Europe is around 11% of TCS. Okay. And then we decided that we had a child there. We didn't want to bring him up in that society. We thought it's better to bring him up in India. Okay. So we moved back to India. And when we moved back to India, the first thing that I was offered was that why don't you look after Middle East Africa? That particular market is not doing well. Just see whether we can do something in that particular market. Okay. So I took up the whole assignment of Middle East in Africa. Okay. And one thing which all of you, again, I find it a very important thing in life is that you need to learn and unlearn things. Okay. Unlearning is as important as skill as learning. Okay. And this is something that you have to know, especially when you are going to customers in the Middle East and Africa. Okay. You can't go with the European mindset to the Middle East customers, okay? Or you can't go with the same thing to an Israel. Okay? I have had very fascinating experiences in Israel. Okay? So it's completely different. You go to Saudi Arabia and the next day you are in Israel. Okay? Both of them are neighboring countries, but both of them completely work differently. So it's very important for you to get that mindset, which is learning and unlearning. Okay? And what I want to tell you is that our approach needs to be completely defined, okay, for each of these markets. Okay? After a couple of years, I moved to our corporate office. Okay? And I do very fascinating things for TCS. I do all the future initiatives for TCS. Okay? So what we don't want, what is not being done today, but what we want to do in the future is what me and my team currently does. Okay? Again, it requires a completely different mindset. So I got a team which is fresh MBAs, fresh out of IIMs. That's my team. Okay. Today I have a team of around 30-40 people. All of them are like that. Okay. All of them come from top management schools. Very young. We just want to pick new ideas and get them all together. Okay. And teams of around 3-4 people each, and all 3-4 people we give a creative idea and ask them to build on something. Okay. And we've built some very fascinating things. Okay. Hopefully it will come to fruition next couple of years. Okay. And I'm very passionate about something which is we do something in TCS, a very good initiative called Fit for Life. Okay. So I'll give you an example of what Fit for Life means. Okay. So what we found was that Chandra is big in running. Okay. So he runs full marathons. Okay. My boss. Okay. He runs many full marathons every year. Okay. And one morning actually he told 10 of us, please come at 5:45 to a particular town. Okay. And we didn't know what to expect, so all of us, 10 of us went over to this ground at 5:45 in the morning. Okay. And then there we were actually taught, we were actually assigned one coach each. Okay. And the coach told us that please go and run 2 kilometers and come. Okay. And we found it so difficult. I mean, running 100 meters was very difficult. Okay. So it was very fascinating. So after that, I mean, a lot of us has got into running. So I was just telling, I run around 100 kilometers a month. Okay. Is my average burn rate. Okay. So essentially, a lot of us in TCS got into running. Okay. And then Chandra and I got a very interesting program at TCS, which is we are passionate about 3 things. Okay. We are passionate about wellness or health for our employees, because our biggest asset today is employees, 278,000 people. Okay, so health is our biggest asset, and one of the things that you will find typically in our society is that again, because of economic conditions, we are so entrenched between 25 and 40 on building our own careers, okay, that we forget the health and wellness part of life. Okay. So by the time you are 40, what happens is that you essentially have 2 or 3 things. Okay. One is hypertension, high blood pressure, right? Second one is diabetes, okay, typical thing. Okay. And all the stress-related illnesses which one has. Okay. So we thought, is there a way that we can make TCS a healthy place? Okay? So we came up with this whole concept called Fit for Life. Okay? The concept about Fit for Life is nothing but, we said people can just go and commit to their own fitness. Okay? The fitness can be running, walking, cycling, swimming, or any sports. You pick up anything. Okay? And then we said the only condition is that you need to commit yourself. You need to say, if I'm going to get into this program, I will do a minimum threshold. Okay? So for example, I will do 100 kilometers of running or walking per year. Okay? Not per month, okay? Per year. Okay? Or I will do a cycling in that order. Okay? Or I will spend so many hours in playing badminton, okay? Or playing cricket, whatever it is. Okay? The second thing that we said was, is there a way that we can get teams together? Because our company works on teams, right? I mean, we can't do everything by ourselves. Okay? I mean, if a large company like this, unless we have our team backing us, there is no way of doing it. Okay? So we said we need to bring in teams. Okay? And the third thing that we said was, if you do both of this, then for every kilometer or every hour that you log in, we will actually give so much in charity. Okay? So that was the incentive from TCS. Okay? And year one of the launch, we had 22,000 people, okay, in the program. Okay? And we actually committed that we will do 1.5 million kilometers. We did actually 1.6 million kilometers. Okay? Okay. Today, this year 2 of the program, we are around 40,000 plus people, okay, in the program. Okay. Again, still long way to go, 278,000 and 40,000. Okay. Still long way to go, but the fact is that it's a great beginning. Okay. And it's again a very interesting work, and we found that no other company in the world has a program of this size. Okay. In terms of scale, in terms of number of employees participating, it's very fascinating. Okay. So to summarize, I have to give you a few final thoughts. Okay. If I look at my own life, what I find is that early challenging opportunities is really key to success. Okay. All of you in your life will be given, all of you will have a few opportunities which will come on your way, okay? Which will be challenging. Okay? Now, you need to see which one to pick, which one to drop. Okay? But pick the right one. Okay? And if you, and I mean, again, there's nothing like right or wrong. Okay? If you pick, whichever you pick, do it well. Okay? I mean, that will give you the success. And if you look at all the successful people in the world today, what you will find is that they would have had 1 or 2 challenging assignments early in their life. Okay? And they were done very well in that particular challenge and that particular part. Okay? So it's very, very critical that you need to see that and see some of the opportunities. Okay? Now the second thing which we tell very important is that people, all of us make commitments, right? But what we say is that commit only what you can deliver. Okay? If you cannot